Methods of mind control, indoctrination. Indoctrination is instructing a person or group of people to accept beliefs uncritically without thinking. It's a regurgitation of information for some reward, usually grades. Unfortunately, grades aren't good indicators of actual learning. The information in the curriculum does not necessarily represent the truth. So what is education? Education, according to the dictionary, the drawing out of one's innate talents and abilities by imparting a knowledge of language, scientific reasoning, history, literature, rhetoric, etc. These are the channels through which these abilities flourish and serve. There are forces that manipulate education from behind the scenes. While educators give us our curriculum and argue over curriculum, there are major players reshaping education to suit their benefits and their agenda without regard for parents' wants or the children's welfare. As a result, today's education system dumbs down children, deliberately making them zombies who don't ask questions but follow orders. Our education is taken out of the Soviet and Nazi regime educational models. This is outcome-based education. It does not lead people to acquire a sense of learning and curiosity. Young people come out of the education without the ability to think critically. Education is geared towards critical left brain modes of consciousness and mostly ignores the creative capabilities of the right hemisphere. For example, science, logic, maths, business, economics, linguistics, and literature are all left brain orientated activities. When chronically engaged in left brain modalities, the limbic brain will suffer. When we're not using both hemispheres of our brain, we will eventually disengage the limbic system, which is the root of one's consciousness in the R complex of the brain. The left hemisphere dominant person will focus on themselves and their needs, selfishness, which leads to a thinking that my body, my physical needs, and those of my immediate family are all important. And if it doesn't affect me, then I'm not interested. Critical thought and the ability to make up one's own opinion is what makes us human. The Western education system creates subhuman robots who obey commands. The dark occultists have created the education system by pumping out graduates who do not think nor engage in critical thinking. The saying, leaders are readers, is true. People who can lead others can do so because of their wide knowledge. The dark occultists appreciate the value of reading and knowledge, and some of the knowledge held by these dark occultists has been held within their families for thousands of years. And such knowledge is also found in mystery schools and occult traditions. An insight into the thinking of these elite is given by Bertrand Russell, The Impact of Science on Society, Columbia University Press, 1951. He said, education should aim at destroying free will so that pupils thus skilled would be incapable of thought for the rest of their lives, of thinking, of acting otherwise than their schoolmasters would have wished. Influences of the home are obstructive and condition students. Verses set to music and repeatedly intoned are very effective. It is for the future scientists to make these maxims precise and to discover exactly how to make children believe that snow is black. Then the technique has been perfected. Every government that has overseen education for generations will be able to control its subjects securely without needing armies or police officers. The Nazi model for outcome-based education. History repeats itself, but few heed its warnings. If our leaders did, they would know that today's massive attempt to transform our culture by nationalising education will bring repression, not freedom. They would see that the manipulative strategies of mastery learning will create human puppets, not independent thinkers. Quote from Berit Jos. The following slides are based on quotes from Nazi literature. They represent today's global system of education. 1. Transform the world by changing children. Those who have the youth on their side can control the future. Nazi literature in our modern education system also teaches German youth must be consciously shaped according to the principles which are recognized as correct, according to the principles of the ideology of National Socialism. Outcome-based education. Restructure schools and nationalize tests and standards for all outcomes. The regime endeavoured to assert its control over the education system through reorganisation and centralisation. Implement mastery-based learning. Politically correct standards for right and wrong. Set effective, not cognitive goals. Forget facts. Teach right. Attitudes, right character through feel-good experiences. Reject old authority figures through critical thinking and values clarification. Confuse students. Values through shocking stimuli and values clarification exercises. Infuse new values through real-life learning. Create a new belief and values through multicultural and global education. Teach math through an integrated curriculum. Condition students to compliance. It was preferred that people should not have a will of their own and should subordinate themselves. Lifelong learning requires training, testing, and remediation. Require community service for youth. Service learning. The purpose of labour of service was partly practical to provide a source of cheap labour, but mainly for ideological purposes. Revise history. The course of history must not appear to young people as a chronicle which strings events together indiscriminately, but as a play, and only the important events, those which have a major impact on life, should be portrayed. Retrain teachers. First, indoctrinate teachers. Certify compliant teachers. The oppressive tactics of the NEA. Teachers were, however, also subject to control from professional associations. Conform or resign. Most academics were either apolitical or approved at least some aspects of the regime. Those who did not were either forced out or intimidated into silence. Silence the opposition. Block out the negative influence of parents and traditional culture. Punish parents who protect children from state indoctrination. Vouchers and Christian schools, private schools and denominational schools gradually succumb to various pressures. The loss of government subsidies or tax concessions,